Hi everyone, welcome to my chat today with Tony McKenna, who is the Director of Information Technology and Change at Howard Kennedy, and is speaking to me as we come to the end of 2024 and we start to look ahead at 2025. Hi Tony.
Hi Caroline, how are you doing?
I'm really good. Thank you so much for joining me. So a lot of you will know Tony. So he's held IT roles at firms including Allen & Overy, now obviously A&O Sherman, Freshfields, Gowling WLG, and he's also president of ILTA, the first non-US president of ILTA in ILTA's history. Tony, so it's great to have you here because you've got that hat with your law firm hat and your ILTA hat. So you speak to a lot of people. So reflecting back on 24 is great, and obviously some future gazing. In terms of the past year, it's been a busy one, right? Like, what would you say your sort of key milestones or the key highlights are of the past year, particularly maybe when it comes to the likes of Gen AI, dare I say?
I think the Gen AI story has really gathered pace through the second half of the year. I think at the first half of the year, we're in a kind of trough of disillusionment, as a lot of people talk about, and the hype curve, because there was a lot of hype in 2023, and then it kind of really all started to slow down in the early part of 2024, where we were sort of hoping to get access to things like Copilot and look at what other providers were bringing into their platforms in terms of Gen AI. We started to see access around about springtime, certainly to Copilot. Microsoft relaxed their licensing laws, and that allowed us to get with the party at the time in spring. It's still been extremely slow. I think the challenge with particularly things like Copilot and the Gen AI large language model story is use case. You know, everybody's really trying to work out what the use case is. And I think through the course of the year, there's been a lot of focus on that. And we had a really good story, really good conversation with Microsoft at ILTACon Europe 2024, just in November there, where they gave you some really good concrete use cases, which is great. And with the introduction of things like Gilo into the mix and Harvey into the mix, there's room for everybody to play now. So the Gilo opportunity is certainly one for us to look to invest in and really drive some of those templated prompt benefits into parts of the firm that aren't naturally curious about technology. So using the naturally curious lawyers to support the broader masses. So yeah, I think the second half of the year has been really good in that front.
That's really good to hear. And Gilo, just to be clear, so that's Sean Curran's Gilo. So Sean Curran, who split away from Travers and who's helping firms to use LLMs in a safe way. Do you think so? I spoke to Christina Blacklaws, who works with LawTech UK with firms in order to try and help them to find use cases and use generative AI in a way that they're comfortable with. And she was saying that it's been, really, apart from the largest law firms, which I'm perhaps guilty of writing about and making out like everybody's doing so much, she said actually it's been, as you said, quite slow, and some of that is still down to, I said, is it cost or trust? And she said a lot of it, there is a cost factor, of course, and firms are trying to work out, they can't invest in everything, and so, where do you invest your money? But also there is that still, that very much that strong sense of you're custodians of client data, can't afford to make a mistake, can't rush into things, even though now we've got to 2024, it's not rushing anymore, arguably, but it's still that pressure of we really can't get it wrong.
Absolutely. Being the custodians of the client's data is, really front and center, and we need to make sure that we are taking our accountabilities and responsibilities in that area really seriously. I think the cost and the access to the market was a big driver for how slow it was for smaller, medium-sized law firms and even silver circle firms. Going into things like Copilot and other large language model solutions, really for us is being driven by our business partners. So the technologies that we already have, what they're doing with their platform, how they're introducing the technology. And as I say, the second half of the year has been much brighter as they've started to integrate large language model AI capability. And that's where we've started to pick up most of our sort of, you know, secure and safe use cases. And as I said before, you know, bringing Copilot into your environment where the vast majority of your, you know, your content sits outside of your Microsoft world is still some way away from having that connection where you can really target your own internal data that sits outside of, that sits in a DMS outside of your Microsoft world. So 2025 will probably start to bring some of that. And certainly products like, as I said, Gilo and Harvey are starting to see how you can drive benefit from in that secure way.
Yeah, and presumably, so the other thing that we're still hearing is around, depending on the context, obviously, is around adoption, and presumably, you know, some of the use cases I've seen from vendors where it's bringing AI to people within their own world.
Yeah.
They may not even know, the really cool thing is that they may not even know that actually they're using AI, right? Some of the stuff that the DMS vendors are doing, perhaps that you're seeing that integrates with Copilot, is actually just really helpful, you know, and you started to see where I think we'll probably end up getting to, which is where people are starting to just do stuff without going, oh, with this Gen AI, am I going to be using it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we started with this whole idea of large language models and the death of the lawyer and all that kind of big hype in 2023. And actually, we've really sort of settled down and realized that a lot of the large language capability is around making your life easier and doing some of, you know, removing some of those more administrative tasks. I hear a lot of people talking about how they're using Copilot within, you know, improving their drafting in emails, summarizing responses in emails, summarizing threads. When I'm out the office, I come back and you can have the technology now review your inbox and really skip to the things that are really important, because we all know we get hundreds of emails a day. The vast majority of that is probably not hugely relevant. So being able to go quickly to, you know, summarize the emails that I've had from my boss, or summarize the emails that I've had from partners across the firm, and being able to get to the important information quickly is where we're seeing sort of uptake. But as I said earlier on at ILTACON 2024, it was great. We had Microsoft there, and we had one of their in-house team, one of their in-house lawyers talking to us about how they're using it. And obviously, they're way ahead of the rest of us in terms of utilization and access to the technology. But you can see from what she was saying that there are, you know, significant use cases in that sort of improvement of administration, just making your life easier and simpler by using sort of Copilot as a day-to-day tool. I mean, it feels a bit like if we were to introduce spell check today. It feels a bit like that, where you're getting a tool that's just, you know, spell check is just embedded in everything that you do, particularly for somebody like me who's dyslexic, you know. So I'd probably still be climbing pylons and poles if it wasn't for Bill Gates and Microsoft Word. But that type of getting it into your normal working pattern, trying to get Copilot into that normal working pattern is still some way off, but we're starting to see that appear across our firm.
Awesome. Yeah, I hear, you know, and actually in my own life, I'm trying just to incorporate that, practice what you preach a little bit, and just trying to incorporate it every day. And it's just amazing, some of the time savings. Just future gazing, you touched upon, you know, already a little bit about 2025. You know, we're likely to see that continue, more of the same can continue. But what are your, you know, if I were to ask you to sort of crystal ball a little bit, what would you say, what are you looking forward to for 2025, or what can you see, you know, in the sort of first half and second half of the year in terms of developments?
There's a couple of things. I think under the cover, underneath the application layer, I still think there's a load of work going on. Lots of people are looking at their network infrastructure and trying to make improvements in that space. If you talk to some of the US firms, they're still trying to move away from physical telephony which is quite interesting because most of the UK and Europe firms made that leap a few years back. Also looking at business continuity, disaster recovery, and particularly around cyber and cyber incidents. I think a lot of us have made really good strides to secure our data and lock it down. I think the thing that will maybe be prevalent 2025 will be recovery. So where are you recovering your data to in the event of a catastrophic incident? And I think there's a lot of us sort of focusing down on saying, right, okay, how would I recover in that in the event of an incident, and looking at tools and technologies and processes and contracts that would bring that recovery time down from somewhere around maybe 20, 23, 24, 25 days, and trying to get that right down to sort of 6 or 7 days in the event of a catastrophic incident. So I think there's still a lot of work going on under the covers. From an application layer and where we're working with our colleagues across the firm, whether it's HR or our legal colleagues. There's some really good technologies that are in there. There's a lot more automation, I feel, certainly from our standpoint. We're bringing in lateral hires with really good ideas, and we're starting to look more and more around using, dare I say, document automation and these types of technologies that have been around for 20 years. But actually, there's a bigger appetite for using some of those types of technologies. And of course, we'll see more in the AI front. We'll see more integrating into existing platforms. We'll start to see what the publishers are really capable of in 2025 and see how that works for our legal colleagues, because they're very used to using those technologies already today. And yeah, I'm pretty excited. I think 2025 will be really interesting. There's one area that I think is still very it's still yet to be fully explored, is the DMS. The DMS being separate from the Microsoft world, and there's a few areas, there's a few organizations working towards looking at maybe a more Microsoft-centric DMS world, and I think that is something that lots of us would be interested to see how that would work.
Awesome. Okay, well look, I can't wait to catch up at the end of 2025, and I'm not wishing 25 away.
Not.
But no, I a lot of that resonates, and I can't wait to see how it all pans out. I can tell you one thing: it's certainly not boring. I know you would agree with that.
Absolutely. It's a truly exciting industry, and we're super lucky to be involved, particularly at this stage when there's lots of interest in the legal space. So yeah, no, I think 2025 will be every bit as exciting as 2024 was.
All right, well, I look forward to travelling on that journey with you, and thanks so much, Tony. It's always great to chat with you. Thanks for your time.
Real pleasure, Caroline. Thanks a lot.